It's been over 10 years that we have been bringing you stories, information, news, markets, everything about the cow business. Yep, I've been in y'all's ears for over 10 years now. And this one today is probably the most intrigued I've been in a long time. I got to be honest about that. Now, we are always trying to bring you solutions, the latest and greatest genetic information, nutritional strategies, reproduction, marketing, grazing, all of it. Got any idea what we're covering this week? And I haven't even danced with this topic until now, but it may change the way that we muster the cattle instead of yelling, "Come, boss," or the siren on the cake truck. So before we begin, this is where we really want to hear from you, your thoughts and comments. 707-RANCH-20, that's 707-726-2420. You can call or you can text. By the way, if you do call, it does go directly to my voicemail right away, by the way. Our email, ranchitupshow@gmail.com. Today, the topic, virtual fencing. Y'all heard me correctly, virtual fencing, gaining more and more curiosity and popularity the past couple years. Gary Tiller is the Director of Commercial Operations for Vence Virtual Fencing, a part of Merck Animal Health. Gary, my interests is beyond piqued when someone says virtual fencing. Here we go. What is virtual fencing?
Well, virtual fencing, let's like take a step back in history. We've always used fence to contain cattle. We stacked rocks, we put poles together, we created barbed wire, we created electrical fencing, and virtual fencing is just the next evolution in fencing, whereby we take out all the old rules, we utilize a collar and behavior and stimulus to control the behavior of the cattle versus having to use a physical barrier.
And I have to say this because I am completely ignorant to this, but I am so fascinated because you've heard this before. I have got more old barbed wire fence that I need to pull out. I do this spring that I need to pull out. And I was going to hot run a lot of this stuff is what I was going to do. So virtual fencing, we have a collar on the cows, whatever the case is. And you said by a stimulus. Now, is that like a little shock collar that if they go outside of a barrier, it gives them a little zzz?
So if you think about it, its base form, it's a lot like the invisible fence that you use for your dog and for dog containment. So our system has three components. One is the collar, and within the collar, you have a GPS, you have a communications chip, and you also have the ability to send a audible signal and an electric impulse to create a stimulus to control the behavior of the cattle.
I had mentioned that I was going to put some hot wire in and I wanted to make some different runs and I wanted to do some intensive grazing. So can I do that? Can I change my perimeter, my barriers? Can I constantly change that?
So I would say the first thing is with virtual fence, we recommend you have a good solid perimeter fence. Good fences make good neighbors.
Amen.
So the real advantage to virtual fencing is all of that sort of roll and unroll electric fence that you would do to deliver on what your grazing management plan is, that all goes away. So what you're now allowed to do is to go onto your software and click and drag and build virtual pastures all around your ranch. You can set those pastures up to be on a timer where cattle are in X amount of hours or days. And then the virtual fence will drop. They'll move to the next pasture. The virtual fence will come back up. So just literally, we like to say, whatever you want to accomplish, you're only limited by your imagination in terms of how you create these virtual fences and how you deliver on your grazing management plan.
So here's where I come in with the yeah buts. And you've heard them all, but I got to really ask this. Bovine are an interesting creature because they are based on habit, repetition, and behavior. So a barbed wire fence, and I'm fussy, you can ask Beck, I am the fussiest when it comes to fixing fence. The cattle learn to respect that and they see that barrier. Now, if there is a virtual barrier there, what is going to cause those cows to move beyond this virtual barrier into the next paddock per se? And then behind them, another virtual barrier will go up because cattle are based on pattern. And if they get that external stimulus when they get too close to that, what's going to make them go beyond it? Or is it the fact that there is that fresh forage that is going to be tempting and they will naturally move? Is that how, am I understanding that? How is it going to work?
Yeah. So let's take a step back. So part of your setup and training when you employ virtual fencing is a time period at the very beginning where you condition these cattle to the stimulus. So this is just very similar to
running stalkers and training them to a hot wire. Yeah,
absolutely. It's classical conditioning from Skinner to Pavlov. And so early on in the training phase, you will overlay a barbed wire fence or a permanent fence, and you'll set your signal and your pulse so that when the cow come up to the hard fence, they will get the stimulus and they will start associating that with the barrier where they need to stop. However, the next phase of it is to create virtual fences within that training paddock that have no visual fence behind it, so that they only start living off of the cues. And so ultimately that's your goal. You only want them to really modify their behavior based on the audible cue. So literally when you drop a fence as the cows graze toward it, as long as they don't get an audible cue, they will continue to graze. It's not like, because there is no permanent fence for them to see. There's no visual cue. They're just head down grazing, no audible cue. I can just keep on walking.
In addition to the electrical stimulus, you mentioned audible, and I'm assuming that this management controlled practice is answering a number of BQA questions.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of studies done here in the US and Australia and in the EU as it pertains to virtual fencing. Countries like Australia and in the EU have a very, very, very strict sort of animal welfare set of guidelines. And so we have to do the work. We have to be approved to be in there. So I would say that just from a pure research perspective, these products have been researched from an animal welfare perspective extremely well. And as a result, we're able to operate in some of the toughest countries when it comes to regulation around electrical stimulation and electrical fencing.
It is time now for a quick break, but we are not done yet. When we come back on the Ranch It Up radio show, Gary and I talk more about the practical application of virtual fence and just a whole lot more about it. Keep it parked, y'all. We'll be right back.
So do you have studies that you've got different classes of cattle that are actually grazing on these that you like, hey, we've got this data, X, Y, and Z?
Absolutely. So today there's probably 30 or 40 peer-reviewed papers that are either in publication or will be presented at the Society of Range Management Convention. These papers have been done by all of your accredited land-grant universities, and it's from Montana State, North Dakota State, Nebraska, Oklahoma State, Texas A&M, New Mexico State, anywhere that you've got a really solid grazing or range management school, you've got people doing the work. This is not a difference in time in terms of fencing. It's just how we deliver that fencing. And really what this creates is a flexibility that ranchers have never had, a flexibility to put fences in areas that...
But is it cost effective, though? I guess is where I'm getting at.
Absolutely. What I would say is if it's not cost effective, ranchers won't employ it. It's just that simple. And return on capital deployed is the primary metric. So there's multiple ways to start calculating that. And what I would say to anyone is we really need to sit down together and talk about what your goals are. Because if your goals are simply more pounds per acre, then we have strategies to do that. If your goal is to improve your land from a environmental perspective to promote a higher bird population or to create corridors to allow easy migration of elk and mule deer, because that's an additional income stream.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Besides just pure pounds. And so that's what I like to talk. I like to have the conversation with people, because we do tend to get focused in the ranching world in this particular deal as this is a cost to my cow-calf operation. But I think what you really have to sit back and say is, I can make this thing cash flow with my cow-calf operation. I can make money with this. And then start looking at all of these sort of other intangible things that occur as a result of improving your grasslands, of removing cross fencing, and frankly, just being able to see any time of the day or night where your cows are and what they're doing.
And I know, obviously, we don't want to I'd be remiss if I didn't say water. If you're thinking about that, guys, you know that, but I have to say that. Make sure you're viable water source number one. So can you tell me what cost investment is per cow? Is it, in our situation, looking at stockers, is that financially viable? Maybe that's where I was going with pounds per acre because of the trade-off, and then the investment in the actual equipment, the gear, the collars, and all that. Can you tell me roughly what we're looking at for costs right now?
Absolutely, I can, but it's all very dependent on your ranch. So there's other virtual fencing companies out there, and we all have a different business model, and we all employ the technology different. So with your place specifically, we would need to take a look at a shape file of your ranch. We would put that through some proprietary software, exaggerate your terrain, overlay that with a telecommunication signal to see what does the communication pattern on your ranch look like? And then we would put in base stations to really sort of elevate that ability to move data around the ranch, is really because you're moving data from the collar to the ranch to the cloud to your software, making a decision on that data, uploading those instructions to the cloud back down to the ranch, and then dispersing those instructions to the cows. And so your individual ranch is really individual to you. It's individual to what your goals are. It's individual to the topography, and it's also individual to what does the telecommunications infrastructure in your area entail, and what are we going to need to do to maximize that infrastructure.
To start a conversation, oh my gosh, this is so fascinating. Is it get a hold of you folks? I love the fact that you say this is a one-on-one consultation. I mean, because everybody's so different. Our goals are different. The cattle are different. The existing fence is different. The water's different. Terrain is different. Is that really the best way? Is to just reach out and say, I've got some questions. How do I even start? Where's the cost come out? How do I even do this?
It's literally the only way to do that.
I love it.
And so there's multiple ways to get a hold of us. We have multiple field days throughout the year in all major ranching areas. You can find that on our social media page on Facebook or Instagram at Vence Virtual Fencing. You can attend one of those. You can go to the website. You can fill out a card on an information on the website, and within 48 hours, somebody from my staff will reach out and start having that conversation. And once we determine that first conversation, what your goals are, you'll be moved on to a specialist. And I think one of the really, really nice things about Vence is that we kind of break the process into two pieces, sort of the pre-deployment sales piece of it. But then once we have determined that Vence is the right fit for you, and that your grazing management plan and what your goals are a right fit for the system, once that happens, we will assign you an individual rancher success person who will walk you through setup, will walk you through how to work with the software, and they're at your disposal anytime you need to talk to them. They will consult with you on the grazing management plan. They will consult throughout the year to see where your results are versus what you thought they were and what you wanted to accomplish, recommend changes to the plan potentially. And so, and all of my rancher success team are people from ranching backgrounds. So we can talk the talk. We understand what your goals are. We understand.
You fixed enough fence in your day and rusty barbed wire through, water gaps.
My gosh, man, my folks have rolled and unrolled enough electric fence that they don't want to have anything to do with it, right? So it's really a nice thing because you'll have a personalized touch by someone that really understands what you're trying to accomplish and what your day-to-day struggles are on the ranch.
Gary Tiller, thank you so much for the time. I guarantee y'all are literally making a mental map of your place and seeing where and how this might work. The convenience of it, perhaps. Well, here is where to get started. You can head to Vence Virtual Fencing on social media. They will link you up to vencefence.com. That's vencefence.com, which will go directly to the Merck Animal Health page. All of their information is there. And as always, you can always click on the show notes for this episode at ranchitupshow.com, and we have all of that information available as well. Gary, thank you so much for the time. Now, break number 2. When we come back, we talk markets and a whole lot more of the cow stuff when we come back.